It happened in the days of the judges of Israel when God's people experienced an up and down relationship and devotion before God. There were times of obedience and times of rebellious disobedience. There were times of blessings from God and times when God allowed the effects of disaster and war to come upon His people for righteous discipline and correction. And such a time brought events that introduced into God's nation a special Moabite woman who would become the great-grandmother of King David and therefore be a part of the lineage of the Messiah. In the book of Ruth, the story is told of an Israelite family from Bethlehem, Naomi, her husband Elimelech, and their 2 sons. A famine occurred in the land that normally flowed with milk and honey, and this famine might have been the result of cycles of nature or perhaps the result of war. Or maybe this was the direct influence of God to get the attention of His people. Whatever the cause, we can be assured that God used this famine to bring together individuals who would likely have never met under other circumstances. In God's providence, Naomi found herself living temporarily outside the land of Canaan in the foreign land of Moab, where at least there was food. In time, she was widowed, and her 2 sons also passed away. Well, what remained for Naomi was an attachment to 2 Moabite women, daughters-in-law who had married her 2 sons. One was Orpah, and the other was Ruth. As Naomi came to the time of returning to the land of Canaan, she urged Orpah and Ruth to return to their Moabite families and cultures. Orpah apparently returned to her previous life, but the heart of Ruth had become bonded to this Israelite woman and to her dedication to God. Ruth would not be separated from Naomi, from her people, and from the people of God. Well, in considering Ruth's devotion to Naomi, we should notice that Ruth apparently had family to which she could have returned, according to Ruth 1 and verse 8. She probably came from a background of worship of pagan gods. In contrast, Naomi's religion of worship was to the one true and living God. We see no temporal motive for Ruth to stay with Naomi since there appeared to be difficult days ahead. Ruth could not expect to find prosperity by staying in the company of Naomi. And yet Ruth was devoted to her mother-in-law. The Apostle Paul points out in Romans 1 and verse 20 that the heart that openly watches for evidence of God will find it. And this may have been part of Ruth's conclusion. It may have been that Ruth saw evidence of the powerful God in her observing of the world around her, and combined that evidence with the detail that she learned from Naomi to come to a more complete understanding of a relationship with Almighty God. We find ourselves following a similar path today. But in following Naomi's guidance, Ruth humbly submitted to the will of God. She worked with energy and humility to further demonstrate her devotion. She made a conscious decision to abandon her earlier life in Moab and be adopted into the nation of the children of God. Now it seems sure that Ruth was the kind of person who would be dearly missed by her Moabite family, and she likely reflected at times on the relationships that she had left behind. But she intently looked forward and focused on the profound goodness that she had discovered in being part of the family of God. God saw Ruth's favorable heart, seeing that she did not seek her own benefit, but was interested in doing the best thing for those around her. And God blessed Ruth by bringing her into the influence first of Naomi and then of Boaz. In the relationship of her marriage to Boaz, God provided well for Ruth in this life and redeemed her securely into God's family. In her subsequent relationship in the lineage of the Messiah, Ruth is further afforded a place of honor among all those who seek God. And more than her personal honor, Ruth represents a redemption that is important to all of us who are adopted into God's family. She was outside the blood lineage of Israel, but God demonstrated His plan even in these ancient times. He intended redemption to apply to any who would have the condition of heart to truly seek and submit to Him. Yes, Jesus came as the Messiah to seek and to save that which was lost. But we see a foretaste of that redemption in the life of Ruth, an ordinary woman who accomplished extraordinary things. Friends, we thank you for joining us for our program today. May God bless you with a wonderful day.